All right, here we go with section 13. All right, now I've just been informed that there will be no school tomorrow on Tuesday, um, which frankly isn't a huge surprise given how much snow we've had, and that apparently we're going to get some more tonight. Which should be interesting is whether we be at school on Wednesday, because that, of course, will determine whether we have this test on Friday or next week. I have a feeling I know what you guys prefer, and maybe as a little test, I'll put a little, a little counter or a little, I don't know, Google form in Schoology just to see who's checking Schoology on these snow days and who isn't, who is sticking their head in the sand for their last precious hours of freedom and who is ready to go with the next stage. Hopefully, some of you are taking a look at the Cicero and taking advantage of this extra time. All right, so we're jumping into 13. We are still looking and deconstructing, as it were, the character of Catiline. So if you remember in section 12, we had again done this this contrasting characters, right? These things that he had been. We have a lot in this. We have two things, actually three things that he uses a lot here. He uses anaphora. Okay, anaphora is the repetition of any single word or phrase for emphasis. So, for example, when he uses apud ilium in his house, that is anaphora. When you have errant, errant, that is anaphora. Okay, and that is used to intend a pylon effect. Remember, guys, I know that you could just use the lazy way and say it emphasizes, but if you just say it emphasizes, I'm not going to give you credit for it. I want more. What is it emphasizing? In this case, it is emphasizing all the characteristics that Catiline had that were so contrasting. He was good and bad. He was tall and short. He was hot and cold. He was all the things. All right. Now, in this 13, we are going to be seeing even more of this because Cicero was not done. This also gives us quite a lot of comparative adjectives. You see the IOR there? All these comparatives. This is also going to give us more anaphora. You see this quiz, 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 quiz. I think there's 7 quizzes. It also is going to give us rhetorical question. Oh gosh, hold on. Rhetorical question. Rhetoric. Rhetorical question. Okay. Which again, remember, is a type of question that doesn't expect an answer. Of course, Cicero is giving this speech to a group of people. He is not expecting an answer to any of this. He is merely getting on his soapbox and wailing away. Let me use a different pen because apparently the glitter in this is causing quite the glare. The other thing that we are getting in this is ellipsis. Okay. So ellipsis is when you leave out a word. Okay. Ellipsis. S. Okay, these are the 3 things that Cicero is going to be using quite a lot of in this speech. An Afro rhetorical question, and ellipsis. A rhetorical question, actually, these are things that Cicero uses throughout all of his speeches. He loves these things. Ellipsis is, again, when you leave out a word. So here, he starts off out of the gate with who, and I put asked it probably more erat, who was more Yundicor pleasant. Okay. Who was, because the more pleasant is right there, the IR, who was more pleasant to the famous men at a certain time. Who, literally, it says, who more intimate with the wicked. But again, you've ellipsed the verb erat. You don't really need it, right? Who was, just understood. Who was more intimate with the wicked? Who was a citizen of the better part at some point? Who was a greater, do I want to say, no, more disgusting enemy to this civilization, who was corrupted in, all of these things, who was, okay, anyway, I'm not, you guys have the translation. Sorry, I was forgetting what I was doing here. So he's again, he's going on this contrasting back and forth. So you start off with sort of like the good, the bad, the good, the bad, the good, the bad. And he's going back and forth. And he also continues that then here. We have the continuation of the anaphora with the cum, cum, cum. This also gives us ellipsis here. With the With the remisus, with the relaxed, he was pleasant. With the old, he was serious. Okay. Who was able to twist and to bend himself. Okay. All of this in section 13 is talking about the duplicity and the two-sided nature of Catiline's character. He was able to be a friend of the strong and evil with the wicked. He was able to be and almost like a chameleon. He was able to turn himself in to whatever was needed. If anyone is a fan of Shakespeare in here, um, one of in some ways the villain that I love to hate, and one of my, I don't want to say favorite villains because he's truly an awful person, is Iago from Othello. And if you've never read the play, and I don't think they make you read it in college or in high school anymore, there's a great Lawrence Fishburne version that's phenomenal. You should all go check out Othello. But Iago in it is one of the more cunning villains ever because he acts like a friend to Othello throughout, but in the back, he's trying to take him down. And so, because he is such a backstabbing and because he's so good at it, no one sees it coming. Okay. It's like the big reveal at the end of some of those movies where the person you thought was a friend is really the enemy. And this was Catiline. Okay. And notice he says, truly, O judges, these things, these marvelous things were in that man. He puts it right in the middle of section 13 that this duplicity of character was for them even awe-inspiring, not necessarily awe-inspiring, but like, holy flibberty gibbets, this man was, he was a cool customer. Okay. And he would cheerfully, what was it? Kiss it. If I'm not kissing babies, I'm stealing their lollipops. That was a movie quote. And I don't remember what movie. No, Hunt for Red October. Okay. Man, I'm digging deep for some movies today. All right. So when I am a politician, which means I'm a thief and a liar, when I'm not kissing babies, I'm stealing their lollipops. Go watch Hunt for Red October. Okay. You have a snow day. So these again, this duplicity of character is continued in 13, and Cicero is laying it on really thick. And the overwhelming amount of anaphora, of rhetorical question, of ellipsis, even here where you have with this, with this, it's a parallelism. It's that parallel structure, okay, that shows, and it's just laying on. And not only is this anaphora, this is also a syndeton. A syndeton is when you don't use any conjunctions at all. I probably shouldn't. This is this glittery? I didn't think this was glittery. That's moonlight. Okay. This is when instead of using and this and this and this, he actually doesn't have. So if you notice this, with the sad, severe, with the pleasant, he was okay. With the relaxed, he was pleasant. With the old, he was serious. With the youthful, he was friendly. With the oh God, hold on. There we go. With the wicked, he was daring, and with the debauched, he was extravagant. You guys can fill in other words if you want. Okay. And literally, so you don't have he wasn't and he was this and he was this and he was this. All of that leaves it out. And the point of a syndeton, the point of leaving out those conjunctions is to create a list that isn't ending. Okay. So Cicero is morally pointing out all of these contrasts of character, but because he never wraps it up with and this, it gives the idea that it could go on. So the asyndeton is sort of in place with these rhetorical questions because who did all these things? He never wraps that up either. And then he gives it, it's like this guy was, this man of men who was able to deceive us all. Okay, he had all these characteristics inside him, and he was able to torque and flexere. Look at this, these two verbs here, to twist and to bend himself, to chameleon himself, to like a snake, sort of slither in. And that snake in many mythologies, and especially in Western mythology, can be kind of it's interesting. It can be both good or bad depending on how you're looking at it. Even in Roman culture here, it certainly seemed duplicitous, and so less ideal of characteristics. All right, so 13 again, we have, and what I think is interesting too is he stops in the middle here, and he talks, he goes through these and he ends with all of the different, double-sidedness of this character. But he takes a moment in the middle here to say, and with his friends, he would help them in times of need with money. Oh my God, listen to pecunia. money, not monia, sorry, with pecunia, with gratia, with the labors of his body, and even if needed, with wickedness and with daring. So he is saying that if you were one of his friends, he would do anything by any means necessary. If he could solve it with money or with hard work, he would. But if he had to stab a couple people in the back, this would help make people, I don't want to say your buddy, but it really your buddy. They'd be bound to you, right? You saved them, so they had to save you. So in a way, he's getting people to connect to him by any means necessary. So again, so 13, we're looking at this sort of as a whole, this really focusing on this back and forth nature of Catiline. And Cicero's kind of laying it on really thick here on all the different ways that Catiline was sort of an evil individual. Okay, so go back through, remind yourself of anaphora, rhetorical question, ellipsis, and a syntaton. Okay, because you're going to see a lot of that in here. All of these adding to the layers of treachery, to the layers of deceit. They are, in this case, with the rhetorical question, especially, Cicero doesn't expect an answer because no one was more duplicitous than Catiline. Here, what we have is a list that is unending that could have gone on. And so you're left with this feeling of, oh my gosh, this person was evil, and not just regular evil, but like, evil with whipped cream and a cherry on top, like super evil. He was a super villain. All right, I don't know, whichever super villain you guys want. All right, so after this, I'm going to move on to 14.